Ade for Olurun, the God molecule. I am called Black Swan Feathers. From sand, Ayo son, of sea, Milagro, invisible man, Ellison. Without father, still I hold unseen power, sundials for hands, healing beyond shadow, Lastima.
1 2 1 2 citizens, man, we're in for a treat right now. At one point in my career, I always wanted to bring this conversation to the airwaves. Victor and Duran, as I sit here and talk to you guys are extremely knowledgeable, well-versed in this field of psychedelic therapy and plant-based medicines. What was that first experience like? Can you describe it, what you felt?
The best way that I could explain it was I started peeling back the layers, right, of like the labels, the expectations, all of that, and just peeling back until I got to the center and the core of who I am. And the answer to that was love, right? That was the message that I got, right? That love is what matters. And it changed my life.
I knew that I was loved, because of psychedelics. My whole entire life, I wondered, I had low self-esteem. I had a lot of issues around confidence and being a dark-skinned Black woman. I really struggled with who am I? What am I? Where do I belong? Mm-hmm. But all I need to know is that I belong in love. That I belong wherever I'm at because I'm loved, because I'm here, because I exist. So for me, like I said, it's extremely personal. I myself have been diagnosed with PTSD and depression, and it's still not an easy route. It's not an easy road, but I'm glad that I get to have the resources and tools to help me along this journey. I think it's also important to say that the system has taught us to hate ourselves. Yeah. Because we look in the mirror and we think we're not leaders. Like you said, we've been leading, we've been healing. This is not new to us, but we've been brainwashed into thinking that they have to sell it back to us, and it's not. It's not theirs to give.
Talking about the whiteness of psychology or the whiteness of Western mental health processes, that shit does not work for white people either. I have a lot of white therapists as clients, and I'm like, fuck. You guys, you're in your head, and they have all these sophisticated vocabularies and frameworks to disguise from the fact that they can't deal with their childhood.
Right. I feel like as a nation we have collective PTSD. I work with individuals with PTSD, and the symptoms are there's a lot of dissociation with what has previously happened. There's avoidance of that. There is a movement away from that which is triggering. One often doesn't want to confront or deal with the trauma. We don't want to do that as a country, right? We're just collectively dissociating from and avoiding. It's been happening here to people here, and since our inception.
Yeah.
And this is what we were founded on.
When we talk about how Europeans colonized us and took this away, it's important to remember that Europeans were the first people to be colonized. That the Catholic Church went and destroyed all the tribes and all the cultures in Europe. I think it's important for us to keep that in mind, Even though that they then and did that thing. It doesn't excuse it.
We need more empathy.
We need more empathy. We need more empathy. And I think it's very important to make a distinction between having a problem with a behavior and condemning people.
But I don't think white people are the problem. It's white supremacy.
Yeah.
When Columbus got his ass on that boat, he was a peasant.
Yeah.
And when he landed, he was royalty all of a sudden. That to me, that is the problem.
That is the problem.
You had to go somewhere else to feel like you're somebody.
It's fine.
The medicine was stop projecting shit on other people and deal with your shit. Mm-hmm. It's just me distracting from the fact that there's pieces of me that I need to be digging into and working on.
I was going to say, I think you make a good point, too, that it's also as well not keep running to the medicine, right? We have to allow the medicine to land and settle and integrate And I think that's something that needs to also be verbalized, because I think there's a lot of this, the medicine is magical, right? And the medicine is like a silver bullet and it'll get you there. But anyone who sat with that medicine knows that medicine can be very gruesome. It can be very painful. It can create a lot of grief. There can be a lot of suffering. But I have realized in my own recovery, before I can fully embrace joy, I have got to embrace my suffering and my grief and my pain. And that sometimes is not magical.
For me, I think of like all that generational trauma over time and what it took to even get to this moment of a sort of self-realization, that it just feels incredibly special. So to even sit at this table and think like, oh, we can actually reflect and talk about it.
The love and the connection and the sharing and the uplifting and the support that I feel in this room, I think is us being the medicine, and I think that is what's going to really show our communities like that shit is dope.
I learned a lot. I'm just a student, learning. I feel like Asia, how what can I contribute, you know what I mean, with all of these experts. But just this conversation alone is the medicine. Someone got a chance to see this, they'll have a totally different understanding of this world, and I think this is just the beginning of many things we hope to do, and I'm glad we're one tribe right now. We all have our own extensions that we can reach out to, our own networks that we can help spread this information to help heal our people, heal ourselves, heal our people, and heal all people. At the end of the day, ultimately that's what we hope for.
I love what Maria Sabina says, that we are the medicine, and I just try to pass that forward as much as possible, because I believe in it.
So let me tell you what makes the magic mushrooms magic. The magic is a naturally occurring hallucinogenic chemical called psilocybin. Psilocybin is found in certain mushrooms grown in the wild on all continents. Indigenous people have been using psilocybin as medicine for thousands of years. In many indigenous cultures, magic mushrooms are considered sacred, and they are reserved for specific cultural practices, not recreational activity, okay? Respect yourself, respect the magic in the medicine. Psychedelic mushrooms play no games. Woo!
Við vonum að ferðin hafi verið ánægilegt. Takk fyrir að velja Icelandair. Verið sæl. Dear passengers, welcome to Iceland, the home of Icelandair. The local time is 10 minutes to 6. Please keep your seatbelt fastened until the seatbelt signs have been switched off. We hope you enjoyed the flight with us. Thank you for choosing Icelandair, and have a pleasant day.
The question posed in this panel is whether psychedelics such as MDMA and psilocybin can ease the mental anguish of addiction. If so, how can lawmakers, law enforcement, and the government make these treatments an accessible reality?
When I think about decriminalization, I think it's a very important step towards social justice. I believe in the benefits of a medicalized model. But I also think that we need to ask the question, who's being left out of this conversation? And who is going to be impacted once you corner the medicines into a certain framework, and people outside of that don't have access to it. So I tell people, if I'm in the United States, for example, if I have insurance and I'm privileged, then I can go and I can pay $2,500 to have a psilocybin session, but my neighbor next door can't afford that, and he sees the benefits that it's bringing my life, and he can grow mushrooms for $40 in his house. He's gonna grow mushrooms for $40 in his house, right? So I think when we talk about decriminalization, there's fear of like what's gonna happen, are people gonna be safe? But the reality is, are people gonna be safe when these medicines are in public consciousness all over the world and people don't have access to them, and then there's no infrastructure to support them to use them outside of the medicalized model? So I think it's very imperative that we're having a parallel process here with regard to how we're approaching these medicines.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will take some questions now from the audience.
Victor, how did this Icelandic opportunity come about?
Yeah, so Iceland has always been a dream for me. I've planned out this vacation for me and my family like 3 times, like looked at the camper vans, like we're gonna stop here, how many Airbnbs do we need to get around the country? But we can't afford it, right? I was like, let me find a way that I could make this happen. And so I emailed this conference here a few months ago, and I was like, hey, I would love to come there and talk about the equity perspective. And as a BIPOC psychedelic therapist, I never heard anything back. But when I came back from Ecuador in November, I got an email from them saying that they wanted me to come and that they wanted me to speak to some of their political leaders about legalizing psychedelics here. And I was like, hey, awesome. And through conversation and back and forth over the last few weeks, that turned into a speaking opportunity. It turned into other interviews with other leaders in the space. And yeah, I think it came from my imagination, honestly. Like when I was in the hood and I have nothing, like my imagination was all I had.
You're a beautiful man.
Rick Doblin is the founder and president of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies. He received his doctorate in public policy from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, where he wrote his dissertation on the regulation of medical uses of psychedelics and marijuana.
Tell us about chasing Rick Doblin around and then actually getting to sit down with him in Iceland.
Yeah, it was, so I was scared, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of nervous. I anticipated that he was gonna be like being pulled 1,000 ways, and so when we booked him, my boss, Ingmar, the CEO of the company I work for, goes, yeah, you got him, like you got him to say yes, now you gotta catch him. And I was like, all right, what does that mean?
I believed all the propaganda about psychedelics. I believed that if you took a psychedelic, it made you crazy. We were told that if you take LSD 5 or 6 times, you're certifiably insane. That's all it took. And that it would hurt your chromosomes and you'd have terrible children. And I didn't know any better. I'm the oldest of 4 children. My parents didn't even drink. And so I believed all that. I took Russian to learn about the other. And in my Russian class, a friend of mine gave me a book to read, and I loved it. And I handed it back to him, and he said, do you realize this person who wrote this book wrote part of it under the influence of LSD? And I said, that's impossible. You know, LSD, nothing good can come from LSD. And he said, no, check it out. It turned out it was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. And that's what really shattered my sense that what I had been taught might not be really true. And so I decided that I would move forward and try psychedelics. So in my freshman year of college, I decided to try LSD. And The first experience was very difficult. I wasn't very emotional. I wasn't very open. I had a hard time losing my sense of self, but I had these intimations of being part of something much bigger. And so it was for political reasons that I got into psychedelics, that I thought if we can help more people feel something deeper than how we normally tribally identify ourselves, that would be the antidote to genocide.
The event in Silverberg starts again in 5 minutes. Please proceed to your seats.
All right, well, you'll just have to do some editing.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, okay. So I felt that this psychedelic experience of connection, of going beyond our...
I exercise because my body is my temple. Therefore, I care about what I put inside my body. How do psychedelics affect the body, you might ask? The effects of magic mushrooms can vary widely and are influenced by one's mindset, and also their social and physical environments. Effects include feelings of euphoria, visual and mental hallucinations, changes in perception, a distorted sense of time, and some people report having spiritual experiences. They can also cause nausea, vomiting, and panic attacks. And for people already experiencing mental and emotional disorders, multiple studies have found that the medical use of psilocybins can treat depression, anxiety, and addiction at rates that no other drug or therapy can assert. Before you try mushrooms or psychedelics of any kind, find an expert to guide you. That's what our ancestors did. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to get back to my workout. Self-love ain't always easy, but honey, this body is worth it.
You were in the Air Force for 18 years. So I would love you to kind of elaborate on the benefits that you've seen from former and current service members who have utilized psychedelic therapy or plant-based medicines to help their mental health issues. Can you speak to that?
In the actual military setting, psychedelics is forbidden.
Okay.
So I can speak for my own personal story because I don't want to out anybody.
Okay.
But I can say for my own personal story, I was, like I said, once upon a time suicidal. In the military,
Okay.
had just gotten divorced, was now a single mother in Italy, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, what I really wanted for my life, and not feeling fulfilled. Just wasn't like, what is it for? I'm paying bills, going to work, but what is it all for? And for me, when I got into psychedelics, it was really about, I was pre-diabetic, so it was about health. You know, I wanted to find, the shaman said, you know, you're invited to find your way back to health. I didn't want to do it the white way. I didn't want to be on a whole lot of pills, you know, I didn't want to, and that's what they were shoving, like this pill for that pill for this, and this side effect, and take this one to cover that side effect, like you're not going to have sex, you're going to gain weight, you know, that's not living, you know, like your solution is killing me. And so I tell people, you know, I was really programmed through DARE, and, you know, when we talk about the war on drugs and with psychedelics, it wasn't that the psychedelics were proven to be harmful. The government was worried about too many people waking up. So I tell people, you know, I was programmed to believe that McDonald's was food and mushrooms was drugs.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask you guys for a direct example of how you saw psychedelic therapy really improve the quality of a person's life.
I have a group of very close-knit friends that are made up of, you know, my little brothers and everybody that I grew up with in my hood, right? It's like seven or eight of us. And we kind of were always on that path, but I feel like psychedelics helped us continue that growth and really solidify it. this weekend, me and my closest friends are heading up to the Poconos to spend some time together in community and just bond and disconnect. And it's gonna be a good experience, man. This is something that we've been doing for years regularly, where we'll get a home somewhere, or we'll get a cabin somewhere and just spend some time together, bonding and making sure everybody's all right and talking through things. So I'm excited. When my wife was pregnant, what happened with Lito that he moved? Lito had broken up with his girlfriend and the mother of his children at the time. I was living with my girl and her family for a little bit while I got back on my feet when I got kicked out of school. And then his apartment burned down.
The kid upstairs, I guess the lady left her son upstairs cooking. He was frying eggs. It might have been like 3 a.m. He's frying eggs and the place caught on fire. I don't know if he fell asleep. So at that point I was basically homeless. So I had stuff, all my things in the car, and that following week I ended up getting into an accident. I hit a deer. So I totaled my car in a week, and then my place was burnt down. So I had no car, no home, nothing. And I was trying to stay somewhere, and it just wasn't working out. So I don't remember if it was you or Lito, but y'all were like, yo, why don't you just, like, it's cool, just stay in the crib. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna need that. And ended up moving over there, and it was like we were all together again. It was a good time, bro.
So it was always like this, like every time somebody fell, you know, they say like with trauma, right? Not with trauma, what determines whether you're resilient or not is whether you have a support system, right? So like when you go through something traumatic, if you have supports in place, then you can like get through that. And if not, then, you know, that's when we see people like, you know, substance abuse or struggle with mental health and all of that. So we went through all of this like really traumatic stuff, but we always had each other.
Yeah, it's crazy how though. I mean, even me and Pete though, like, used to share clothes.
Sleeping out there like that.
No, both of us.
That's
Like,
cool, man. I appreciate you, man. It was hard times. It was hard times.
Nah, I used to get shirts from Pito. Like, I mean, sometimes you don't have it, and I'm trying to look nice, and you got something nice. Be my boy leather today.
Yeah, we had like the Dickie suits.
There's a film project, right, that you guys are a part of. Can we talk about that?
I told Duran, I was like, yo, I got this idea for this documentary where we talk about black and brown men healing together and how psychedelics can help that, right? And just showing and shattering the stereotype that we gotta be like, you know, proud all the time and that we can't cry together and we can't go to therapy and we can't do all of these things. And so when I told Duran about that, Duran had an idea of taking a group of therapists from Black Therapists Rock and us going back to Africa and having an experience together there. And so this film is all of that, right? It's really, you know, we talked about our people being left behind with the whole marijuana movement. And so this is I think a blend of us trying to educate our community while also empowering them by showing them what healing looks like. And not that we're showing up on camera like, look at us, we're healed. And, you know, it's like, look, this is the process and we're still going through it. And even though you might see us in these positions that we're, you know, we might have good careers or whatever, we still got all these things that we're working through.
You know, my father was deported when I was a young kid. He was in jail for about 9 years for some situation. And I felt like sitting with medicine could help bring out some of those feelings, but also help me come to terms with it.
Even before this documentary, we had conversations about him going to Ecuador, just to see his family there. And I was like, well, you know, what if we go to Peru and sit with medicine in Peru in the Amazon, and then take a road trip up the Pan American Highway up to Ecuador, and meet your father there for the first time, and then like we'll be there around you to support you and hold you up, because you know there's a lot that can come up when that happens.
Doing that would just be an awesome opportunity to be able to sit with the medicine, but also for me mentally, you know, I normally don't go into it, but like it's really affected me, and to have the opportunity just to see him, to embrace him, would be amazing.
And so for me, like this documentary and us going to Ecuador, this is the integration, bro. Like, cause that's the most important part. It's like you have the experience, now what are you doing with it? We're creating, we're reconnecting, we're strengthening our bond. Like this is all taking what we learned and making sense of it and integrating it into our lives and making better changes so that, you know, the future generations after us don't have to go through it, but also we're healing the generations before us that went through the things that they went through.
Definitely. I mean, I've told you plenty of times, you know, like after everything and sitting with medicine, I feel like I have a heightened sense of awareness, and it's almost like for years I had a block, and with that block it was like nothing can affect me, and now it's like something's in me has opened up, and it's like I can feel, and stuff is really affecting me where I'm like, wow, I need to address that. I need to have a better understanding of what's going on and work it differently rather than just saying forget it, let it go, and really push through those things.
Anything y'all want to say in closing?
You know, I won't speak for Duran, but this is scary, right? We're stepping out in this way. The whole world is gonna see this, and I just want our people and our community to be safe. We're taking this risk because we believe in this medicine, but just keep yourself safe, take care of your family. If you're not ready to talk about these things publicly and it's something that's personal to you, or you don't feel safe in doing that, that's okay. We're trying to do that work for our community, and whenever you're ready, you know, you can share, but just keep yourself safe. And we understand that for people of color, talking about this is terrifying.
It's scary, yeah.
Yeah.